And right now, the panel discussion will put the focus on the many Indias of retail, how retailers are unlocking the nation's full potential. It's my privilege and pleasure to introduce and invite on stage our distinguished panel. He is Regional Vice President, India Business, CleverTap. Please put your hands together and welcome on stage Anuj Malhotra. He is Chief Executive Officer, India Silk House, Agencies and BCUT. Let's put our hands together for Darshan Dudoria. He is Chief Executive Officer, Tata Click. Let's make some noise for Gopal Asthana. He is Director, StarQuick, a Tata Enterprise. Let's raise a cheer for K. Radhakrishnan. A warm welcome to Director Vijay Sales, Nilesh Gupta. Okay, if he's here, he'll join us. Please welcome Chief Executive Officer, Apollo Pharmacies Limited, P. Jayakumar. He is Chief Executive Officer, In-Orbit Malls. Let's put our hands together for Rajneesh Mahajan. He is Chief Executive Officer and Founder, Snitch. A warm welcome to Siddharth Dungarwal. And let's make some noise for our most erudite moderator, Managing Director and Partner, BCG, Bharat Mimani. Over to you, sir, and to our panel. Thank you.
Does this work? Hello? Is it audible? Yes? Okay. No, so good afternoon, everyone. And it's an honor to host this experience panel with me. And on a topic which is quite relevant in today's context. I think as I've been here and I've been interacting with retailers for the last few months, I think there's been a discussion around consumption, a discussion around where will is growth there, where will growth come from. And one of the things that we've done as we... Sorry, what I asked? Can somebody increase the volumes? Hello, is it audible now? Yes. Yeah. Is this better? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for pointing that out. So I was saying, as I've interacted with retailers and both today as well as in the past few months, I think one of the questions which has been quite pertinent and has come up almost in every conversation has been, what's happening on consumption, where is it right now? And as we have done some research and we've sort of launched the report which you guys can get on to, I think one of the things we have realized is, it's a little bit, consumption is there, it's coming in pockets and it's there in very different forms and shapes in India, right? What we've seen is now more so than ever, we've seen some very scaled models both in retails and from the brand sides in premium, given how large some of the premium segment has become. At the same time, we've seen retailers who have created strong value-led plays and actually differentiating, challenging some of the existing norms. So we see opportunities at both ends, but with retailers who have been able to create specializability. We've seen, more than not, actually one of the interesting things we have realized as we do our simulation is 45 plus and 35 plus segment is going to become a large part of the cohort in a decade's time. We've always spoken about India being a young country, but we've already seen actually a wide movement that's going to happen where the elderly, I don't want to call it elderly, all of us, but where the age population is actually going to be quite large and important, leading to a set of very different, and we'll talk a little bit about it. But one of the most fascinating things we've seen is actually what's happening to categories in women-led and what's happened to the working participation of women in the working group as well, right? And that is leading to a set of very different choices, very different categories, very different retail models actually prevailing. So there's a lot of different nuances in India, and what we've seen increasingly as we've analyzed data is at a collective level, retail is still, if you look at an average of the last 4-5 years, retail is still doing quite well, but you see a very de-average pictures about what's happening, which models are winning, which are not winning. And what we see is it's driven by, various choices you are making, various cohorts of consumer you're targeting, and how you're ensuring that your model is well aligned to that. There's no one right answer. And what we will do on this panel with this very diverse and experienced panel of ours is actually pick their brains on those various aspects and what they believe are really the underlying unlocks for retailers as they go through this journey. So I will want to start with Mr. Jaykumar, if that's fine, around, I mean, we've looked at this, right? Retail, if I look at it a decade out, is going to be more than a $2 trillion opportunity or 180 trillion rupees, whichever way we want to call it, right? What do you believe are the biggest barriers or challenges that you see on what retailers need to do differently or think differently to be able to capture this opportunity that exists about consumption, especially organized retailers? So what would be your 2 or 3 points around the same?
Yeah, thank you, Bharat. Good evening, all the members. Bharat, before I get into it, I think I'm an odd man out the pharmacy, as a retailer. So until the COVID, this category was not recognized here. So only the post-COVID, this pharmacy has become a so important category. I've been called, consecutively for the last 5 years for the RAI to come and, be part of the panel. Just to give the audience, in terms of the market, as you are talking about, and currently it is close to at 28 billion US dollars, and out of which close to 23 billion US dollar is retail, and that 23 billion US dollars is close to a 2 lakh crores, and within that, the organized pharmacy chain, which contributes only 6% of the revenue. That means it's highly fragmented. And we have a 10 million, 1 million chemists actually coexist, in this category. And now, post-COVID, the digital is also, because until the COVID, the healthcare, they wanted to really, want to go physical. So the post-COVID, and really, the people have really wanted that the emergency as a category, the digital penetration is actually increased. And so that's what we are seeing. And the digital, because today there are a lot of compliances, regulations we need to really we have to go, because the draft rule is not still clear. But we, as the responsible retailer, the trust what we created over the last 4 decades, I think we have been successfully. We manage this, the offline and online as Omni. As you're talking about, what are the barriers basically, in this? The headroom is very large. And because the disease management, in terms of now, as an industry, it is growing year on year 10 to 12%. And organized retailers are growing around 18%. But still, the clarity on the compliance, especially on this online, offline, is one barrier. The second one, low ticket value. Because see, we sell Crocin and we sell, eye antibiotics both. Still in this category, the average ABV is less than 350 rupees. So I think that's the second. Then third, the price war. And we don't know. So people don't go and really ask discount for the big, whatever the other products they buy. I don't want to name the products. But when it comes to the medicine, or when it comes to the health, they really look for the huge discounts. So I think that's the big barrier for us as a retailers, and how to manage in terms of the cost of operations running this business. And finally, the assortment. And because today we have 700 plus manufacturers, recognized, unrecognized are many, and 1,63,000 SKUs what we manage. So assortment is extremely high, and the cost of doing business and inventory is very, very high. We turn the inventory only by 7.5 times, so it's not really viable. I think these are the big barriers what we as a retailers. But I think at the end of the day, this is a category connected with serving the people in terms of saving lives. So that's where this in 4 decades ago our chairman has built this. We are the only one business which is healthcare. That's all. We have not really get into anything else. I think that's our focus, what we're continuously doing for the last 4 decades.
Great insights, and I think very, very interesting elements around the model that you guys have done over the last few years. Gopal, if I may, right, before I dive into some of the nuances, one of the questions, Gopal, I wanted to check with you is, do you believe that retailers, and this is I'm asking more collectively, are we doing enough to shape consumer behavior to catch some of the trends early up, or on an average, retailers have been more responsive to changes which are happening, and do we need to do more on that front to be able to capture this 2 trillion opportunities? What would your thoughts be on that?
Are you specifically referring to the offline online kind of
No, all of the trends, whether it is about age group, whether it was online, offline, in general, are retailers responding to that well, or do you believe more has to be done? And then we'll talk about the nuances.
Sure. So I'll give a very small perspective of what is happening. Out of the $2 trillion that you are seeing in next decade, which is going to be spent, e-commerce will be close to about $550 billion in this country. So as of today, when we sit here, it's $125 billion. It's going to become close to about $345 billion in 2030, and 2035 is slated at close to about $550 billion. Now, what is happening in this country, that we are all going through a massive digital transformation, right? And I want to put this number in front of everyone. We are 1.44 billion population, right? Almost 90% of us now have Aadhaar cards. 7-8 years back, it was not there. So there was no social security, there was no digital identification. The total number of social media users, the total number of internet users, and the total number of smartphone users individually are more than the population of United States. So just imagine the kind of revolution which is happening in this country. So given this revolution, the customer is changing. Now, what is happening to the brands? I spent almost 2 decades in offline retailing, right? And last 5-6 years in online retailing. I can clearly see that the brands who are not able to give a consistent, appearance or consistent experience to the customer at every point of touch, okay, are the ones who probably will lag behind. To answer you, and therefore, the omni-channel comes into play, and if you have an offline and if you have an online, okay, and as a customer, I'm having different experience in offline touch and online touch, okay, it might be not so good for them, but I've seen most of the brands standing up to the occasion, and they are doing a phenomenal job, okay, of kind of managing a very, very good omni-channel, right? Which that means both the points have been touched.
No, and quite relevant and very insightful. And I think coming from your experience of both in the offline world and online world, I think it's an important thing to keep in mind. So maybe with you, Siddharth, if I may ask the question, right? Given that you've started your journey as a digital first brand, right, and you have started with the online mode of scaling up the brand, getting the product market fit right, and now you're moving towards offline, right? One of the key debates that have happened is, while we've all said online, offline, omni-channel is important, right? A large part of the retailer base, right, continues to be either, retailers who are largely selling online or largely selling offline. What is your perspective about being omni-channel in a significant way versus, and why did you believe it is critical for your business to be omni-channel versus purely being online?
Hey, yeah, we started our journey in 2020 largely online. Retail just happened in 2023. I was passing by a street in Jayanagar, saw a two-let board. It was 2,200 square foot, 350,000 was the rental. In my mind, and there was absolute no retail presence there. In my mind, I thought even if the store does about 8 to 10 lakhs in net sales, we'll be profitable, and probably the best way to test offline retail. Plus, since there is no retail presence there, we could know what is the sort of brand pull that we have, right? We took about 2 months to design the store. July 15th is when we launched it. There was no celebrity call. There was no large influencer campaign that we did. All we did was, made a shout out to our consumers saying that, hey, this is our first offline store. Within 15 days, we clocked 50 lakhs in net revenue. The next month, the store did 80 lakhs. And by December, that one store hit 1.5 crores in net sales. And I was completely stunned because the unit economics looked fabulous. And, we wanted to double down on retail then. And since that, in the last probably 6 or 7 months, 8 months, we've opened 47 more stores across 16 different cities. When we thought of entering the offline retail world, one thing I was very sure of was not to run it the conventional way. Right, the conventional way of offline retail was 3 months of inventory in the store, 2 EOSS sales. It was a very, very, very standardized model. When we sat in our drawing room, we said, no, this is not the way we want to run retail. It's the world of quick com. And if you are still running traditional retail, it's not going to help us because working capital was the most important metric that we tracked. And since we were digital first brand, it became very easy for me to understand, we have served over 3 million consumers online. Became very, very easy for me to understand, how do we place our stores? What should be the location? What should be the SKU mix? I exactly know that, skinny denims would sell in Gujarat, but not sell in Delhi. And, vice versa with what is selling in Delhi versus, so that became very, very easy for us in terms of placing SKUs. Right from size mix to category to subcategory, and hence our throughput and the conversion rate in the stores are phenomenal. Second is, what I've observed is the buying pattern which has changed. Right, 10 years back versus now. When I was a kid, my dad used to take me to a store called Twinkle on MG Road, Bangalore, shop for 6 months, drop me back home. Period. That was the shopping pattern. Today, it's very, very different. Today, the 23-year-old in the house is the decision maker. So we knew we've cracked, the 18 to 30 model, which is entering a consumer's household through a 23-year-old. And today, every parent thinks that the 23-year-old is much smarter because they are more digitally savvy. Every parent wants to resonate with their son and or daughter, and brand has become like a medium to connect parents with their kids, and hence, our offline metrics when it comes to age group of, 40 to 50, spend almost 2x of what, an 18 to 30 spends. And that's happening because, people are changing the way they buy. Today, people buy for a concert. Inventory matters the most. How do you make it so universal? Even with when we thought of going omni, right? The first thought was, how do we make the inventory universal? So we had to build a lot of tech around that. And 3 months from now, wherever you're sitting, the nearest store inventory, could you just see it, on your mobile phone so that your decision making to go to that store or maybe choose to go to another location is much more easier. Every small detail when it comes to inventory, when it comes to store schemes, etc. We've sort of changed the retail norm and then thought of it from a quick com and an e-com angle.
Very insightful, and the story of how the experimentation with which you started it and how you then quickly understood it worked and scaled up. I think it's quite. I think that experimentation, that trial, I think given retail allows you to do things at a certain scale, test and then scale up. I think that's one of the things. I think it's an important thing to pick up. Mr. Radhakrishnan, if I may just throw a question at you. In your space, you have actually in the grocery space, you've actually seen a lot of different models playing out. We know at the premium end, I don't even know whether to call it premium or not premium, but what's happening with quick commerce, right? And at the same time, the sustained growth of value grocery that continues, not at that pace, but at a reasonable pace. So how do you see this opportunity of both growth at the premium value end? Do you believe it's a one directional growth that will come more at premium or not value, or do you believe growth will come at both these opportunities and they are both up for grabs for the retailers? What would be your view, having seen this in your space?
Over the last 10, 12 years, there are three factors which is playing out in India. What is driving India really? And I picked up a few things from here and there. One was definitely the absolutely fantastic book of Rama Bijapurkar called Lilliput Land. And I don't think I have read in the last 20 years any book which combines data and insight the way she has done in that book. And what I can see is that there are three big factors which is running India. The first is aspiration, right? As a small boy growing up in Delhi, they say in Hindi कि ये आपकी औकात नहीं है. If you are not from that particular social status, social strata, it was common to say that it is not for you. So you are socially forbidden to even aspire for something. Today, with the penetration of internet and media, like you're saying, I think the glass ceiling is completely broken. A little girl in a tier 4 town wants to be like Alia Bhatt. She has all the wish and she has the legitimacy to say that she wants to be like her. So aspiration today is there. My elder son, he works with Spotify. He keeps telling me at 50 he wants to retire with a Porsche. And I tell him that the moment you buy the Porsche, the driver is ready. He said, if I buy a Porsche, I'll never get a driver anyway. So I said, at least a cleaner for a Porsche, I think I'll be old enough to actually clean his car. So aspiration is boundless. And I think every nation requires aspiration. Aspiration is to be beyond what you really are today. That's where India is. India is really arrogant in being looking forward, and that's the way it should be, right? A young country like us, I think we have to be like that. The second factor is affordability. The tide has risen. We may say that, oh, the disparity has gone up. Yeah, of course, disparity has gone up. That is the nature of the business. But if everybody rises and there is an absolute value in life of where you are in life and the amount you earn, and the millions of people who are out of poverty, in whichever way you define it, whether it's United Nations of number of calories per day, etc. But whatever it is, people are less poor. There are less poor people in this country. When C.K. Prahalad wrote his bottom of the pyramid, I think his bottom of the pyramid was much larger than it is today. And as BCG, you will corroborate that. So the first one is aspiration, second one is affordability, and the third one is access. You know, the problem with growth is the problem with the large companies. The large companies are not big enough. I work in a company which is growing at, we all know Trent is growing fast. And I was talking to somebody, not only in Trent, but in some other company which is also growing fast. The biggest problem is tomorrow you go out to buy something, let's say at the range of 100 million pieces, nobody can supply. You have a problem. Your vendor is not equipped. Why? The vendor is sitting in a tier 4 town, tier 3 town. Today, electricity is much better. His cost of capital is too high. His cost of labor is very erratic. Cost is high and the labor is erratic. But you go to China. About a few years ago, I went to Guangzhou when I was in my previous company, not when I was Tata. And we wanted buying bulbs. I went to a manufacturer of bulbs there who was manufacturing LED bulbs. This is almost like 19, 20 years ago. And his factory was 8 floors. The largest bulb manufacturer in India was making something like 20 lakh bulbs a week. And this guy was making 200 million a month. And his project that he had was changing all the street lights of Mexico. The problem is access. The problem of access is that even if you grow, your vendors are unable to supply. We don't understand the quantum of size. We don't understand the quantum if Apple is making something, the components, what is required to make that component. India has to do a lot in terms of access. One last point. I was talking to a juice company, and in Bombay, they had 15 variants. I happened to travel to Kalyan, and I went to a retail outlet there, and I found that he has only 5. And That guy was telling me, so when I came back, I asked him, how come in Kalyan you have only 5 flavors? He's saying, ho sakta hai, 9 won't sell. The reality is that 1 liter of that small flavor won't sell, but they're not prepared to make half a liter. They're not prepared to make 200 ml. Problem in this country, FMCG is not thinking. The large companies, Indian companies are not thinking. They are not innovating, they are not modifying, and they're not making things for the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 towns.
I think quite, I would say, straight and all relevant comments. And I think, especially given even the kind of growth that has been seen in consumption, and and I personally, having seen some of the China backend as well as the ability to scale, right? I think that's one of the things that is quite critical as retail experiments and scales up over a period of time, like you also mentioned, right? As you understand some of the product market fit, as you want to scale up, I think having that backbone to actually scale up fast, which is tech enabled, which is connected, I think it's going to be a very critical part. And the second, I think, is around innovation, right? I think one of the things we realized is in a lot of the categories, we keep talking about affordability, that consumers, a lot of our growth is purchasing power parity, ASPs, and so on. In simple categories like toothpaste, India has 4x less consumption per household per pop than in countries like China. That is all lot about innovation. That is a lot about how do you drive consumer growth. So I can't conquer.
Bharat, can I make one comment? He has enough capacity. His vendors, he makes silk saris. We have enough vendors who make silk saris, but I don't know how many women in the hall are wearing saris.
So that takes me to my next question, actually, and I would pose this to Darshan. Darshan, there's been a big trend, right, in India, which has been a lot more about the Indian pride versus actually the feeling of owning global brands. I think Sir spoke about a Porsche and so on, right? I think the Indian pride versus the global brands, and I think that spills a lot more towards wearing Indian categories, being seen dressed in Indian. As you are actually scaling up your business and you're going to even smaller towns and larger towns, right? How are you thinking about ensuring that when the next generation of consumers, right, which are a lot more online connected, social media connected, how do you ensuring that the category is relevant, that the category is aspirational, that the category is stylish? How are you thinking about that for your category as you're growing this?
Hello. Yeah. So thank you for that, and thank you for giving a shout out for silk saris. So first of all, I'd really like to congratulate the RAI team because I think they've done a splendid job. It's the first time we've come all the way from Calcutta. Shout out to my team right here. And on your point, I see more than a few people wearing saris, and a shout out to them also because I think I'll take this opportunity to describe saris as a category. Saris is a 60,000 crore market growing at a CAGR of 12%, within which the organized subsector is now growing at a 34% CAGR. There are not a lot of categories that exist, right? And we continuously keep thinking and challenging, and we think, oh, eyewear particularly is a bigger category than saris. But unfortunately, like all of us here, which is not the best, but we typically talk about saris to a room full of men, right? And I wish I had a female member in the panel also, which would sort of make sense. But coming to your point, I think creating a brand requires the storytelling, the narrative is the most important. So I think for us as a brand, it was very important to find our soul. And I think at some level you start questioning with Siddharth opening so many stores. So I'll be happy to share that we were at 2 stores up till 5 years ago, and we are now at 52 stores, and we are looking to touch the 100 store mark this year. You have to continuously innovate, and we've done some very interesting things, and I'll take the opportunity to share. We've taken a truck full of 3,000 saris, and every weekend for the next 9 months, we go to different cities of India, take up a hotel, do an exhibition there, just promoting saris as a category. We've gone to places like Rewa, Ujjain, Lucknow, Kanpur, Agra, and we were so happy looking at the response that we've got a truck number 2. So now there are 2 trucks every weekend across India with 3,000 saris, and our team members continuously getting replenished, and that's how we're trying to understand the market. So to answer, again, for retail and for all of us here, the larger answer stays in data. So out of 140 crore odd people in India, you'll be surprised to know, I was just reading earlier today, Mint published this article saying there's 40 crore people only who are buying non-essential items. So there were 65 crore people who went to the Mahakumbh, and here we are looking at a category of 40 crore people, and all of us need to serve that. Right? All of us are serving that 40 crore people. So it becomes very important to look at a brand from a perspective that you have to serve the same customer maybe 3 times or 4 times in a year. Your customer retention, your repeat ratio has to be incredibly high. And how do you do that? So a brand, till the time it doesn't have a soul that you can go to, or then you have to, thanks to the Swiggies and the Zomatos and the Amazons of the world, everything's become quick. So I want everything yesterday. So in this case, and that I think to me, everyone talks about, you said about tier 4, tier 3. So our growth strategy is around actually tier 3 and tier 4 towns. I don't need to be in a tier 1, pay higher rent. My ROCEs are off. Our business model is around ROCEs. And I think we do business primarily for the factor of creating wealth. That's the quintessential Oxford Dictionary meaning of doing business. And in here, I strongly believe creating value through numbers is critical. And you'll be happy to also know, I think 63% of online orders are actually coming from tier 2 and tier 3 towns. There's 77% higher spending happening in tier 2, tier 3 towns compared to tier 1 cities. So herein lies, I think, and thanks to, again, as I said, quick delivery companies, it's about, you used a very interesting word again, access. And I think availability is critical. Because if saris is available, and all these other women who are not wearing saris, I'm sure if there was a sari store right outside their housing complex, you would have a lot more people wearing saris. And that's how categories get built. And that to me is the future of Indian retail. It will keep shifting because access is going to get more. You have to have an identity because people need to come to you more. Our average store size is 1,140 square feet. And I think we have to be everywhere, cater to smaller groups of people, make ourselves more accessible. And then saris, and I have to please, it's very close to my heart. So our tagline is delivering culture worldwide. So we today are selling saris as a symbol of the Indian culture, as something which is timeless. So if you realize, we are not size agnostic. We've survived 2,000 years of the same fabric being draped in different ways. So we don't suffer from your problems of sizing and this and that. We have our inventory turns are far better, and that's what we are most happy about. Thank you so much.
No. I think very insightful and very relevant point. I think one of my biggest learnings today was how even, I think like you rightly said, there is a point about access to say, while saris may have been traditionally available even in the smaller towns, I think the kind of designs, the kind of variety, getting the right different sources of saris into the right consumer points and creating that traction, I think is clearly like identifying white spaces in retail, or where you can connect, and doing that innovation that we actually spoke about, which triggers the consumption. So truly insightful. I think I would move to Rajneesh, and I mean, you are seeing a lot of evolution. We've spoken a lot about online, right? And we've spoken also about how some of these offline touchpoints, the belief that offline touchpoints also create a significant role. As you are seeing from your vantage point, how are the roles or the nature of stores, how they are designed, whether they are experiential, whether they are, as inventory focused like earlier, are the sizes going up, are the sizes going down? What kind of changes in formats are working? Who's doing well? Any learnings from what you have seen happen in your malls around what is really changing in terms of how retailers are thinking about using the offline formats and retails?
See, to pull somebody out of the comfort of home, there has to be something which is offered as a very exciting experience or journey to really compel somebody come out of homes, brave the traffic of cities and find parking and then be in a physical space. So there has to be something which excites me as a customer to be at a physical space which makes my journey better and not so transactional. I remember 15 years back or 10 years back in similar forums when endless aisles, technology and touch points, and every store designer was talking about screens and beacons in the stores, and how the stores 10 years down the line will look like, was a very different discussion when technology started coming in and people started talking about that stores will shrink because merchandise will be available through tech integration, and I will have an iPad, and iPad will have all the range available, all colors, all sizes available. So I don't need bigger store. And 10 years now, everybody is having 30 to 40% bigger store because you need more space in the store. You need more lounge space. You need place for kids to sit and do something. Large formats are creating space for kids to play around so that the mother and the parents are not disturbed. So we have seen a change. Technology is gluing people to the screen, and the physical stores have to take people away from the screen. So which means you have to use less technology at store and you have to use more interaction at the store. So in 10, 15 years, the discussions have changed completely. And this was not India, this was global. Nokia, around 20 years back, came out with a store where if you pick a piece, the whole digital wall will start throwing features around it. And Nike had a store which was so feature rich. You pick a shoe and the wall will tell you everything about the technology. And most of these stores globally, what I see now is there's a hanging wire, there's a broken button on the iPad, and iPad doesn't have a button, but other tablets which has a button is all broken. Kids broke it, but the shoppers actually wanted to interact. And the experience is in communication, is in interacting with people. Now, it is not to say that people want touch and feel. People buy houses now online completely. The car I bought last year, I did not even go to the showroom. I don't know where it came from. It just appeared at my home and money went out digitally. So it's not that high value purchases or online will not happen. All of that will happen. Every journey will have to be seamless. Every journey has to be joyful. And physical spaces have to ensure that the stores, the customer service, and a lot has to be done in the staff training. I see the biggest opportunity I see in physical retail today is in grooming that layer which is talking to customer. And we cannot be cost conscious there. We have to spend money on training. We have to pay them well. We have to look at their grooming. And we have to look at continuous training to up their skills.
No, quite well said. And I think the changing role of the store is actually quite critical as this is playing out, right? Moving to you, Anuj, I think one of the things that has been spoken a lot about, globally, right, and a lot of investments and actions are going is into personalization, right? How do you actually create experiences which are for you, which is bringing the right thing that would interest you, bringing the right, no, I'm not talking about offers, but more even the right offerings, the right products, the right way to communicate that. There's a lot of focus and investments that have happened globally. In India as well, it has been done, but it has been done in specific pockets. It has been done with specific use cases, not so on. What do you see the role of personalization in ensuring that all of the unlocks that we spoke about, right, which are not really hard or supply side led, what is the role of personalization you see in creating the right and relevant access and communicating that to the consumer? And do you believe there are barriers where India is different and personalization will have its adapted role versus the rest of the world?
Sure. I do agree with everything that all the panelists have said till now, and on the point of, specifically on the point of personalization, whether it is offline retail going through the digital transformation journey and communicating with their customers to have more walk-ins, or it is the online retail where you want more users to come browse the app or the website and have more conversions. It will all come down, finally boils down to how well you are connecting with your customers, right? We have accessibility now, we have affordability, but one thing is unique, which is the customer. Our customer, each person is unique, and India is so diverse, right? Across states, north, south, east and west. culture, language, and all that. But it's how a brand will communicate and how hyper-personalized is the experience with the customer that will finally define whether the customer is the affinity towards the brand, right? And the affinity towards coming and making a purchase. That will also define the loyalty the person has towards the brand. So all in all, MarTech, marketing automation plays a big role in the whole hyper-personalization space, starting from how you are able to segment your customers into different cohorts, basis not just their geography or location, or also basis the past behavior, their likes, their preferences, whether it's captured online or offline. Put all that together and then give a unified kind of experience to the customer and a very personalized experience to the customer. I think that is what is driving growth.
Well said. One of the themes we've actually heard is, or we actually expect, like I was mentioning, was the profile of consumers is going to change a lot over the next decade, right? Like I said, 40 plus consumers is going to be the largest cohort as India ages over the next coming decade, which is obviously going to open a lot of different categories, and Mr. Jayakumar, particularly preventive healthcare and as well as so on, right? Whether it's vitamins, mineral supplements, whether it is, even let's say adult, diapers, multiple offerings that you've also attempted, right? How do you see this opportunity, right? We've seen brands also launch dedicated food products which are focused on elderly. So how do you see this opportunity, and what do retailers need to adapt to capture this, over the coming years?
Yeah, specifically, you are talking about what are the categories are going to emerge. I think that's your question. Yeah, okay. See, what we have seen, maybe again, I'm giving the data. So we have been a big advocacy we are doing from our organization is about non-communicable disease. NCD is a big story in India. So India is the capital for diabetic. India is the capital for cardiac or a cancer. Now you all know that obesity is catching up like crazy. And the senior category, as you were talking about, that is really catching up crazy. And there are categories within that when you just go. The wellness is another one, the post-COVID. And people are really wanted to be using a lot of wellness as a category. So and specifically you're talking about how this age of the population when we are growing, what are the categories which is going, each and every retailer has to see. So specifically the below 35 today, the your Gen Z, they are actually into the different segment, and predominantly pharmacy-like category. We have been serving to the Gen X chronic, from along with Gen X chronic, and there are the condition management. As I told you again, the chronic categories like diabetic, cardiac, plus what are the other products of condition management to support them in terms of their wellness. I think that's really going as a big category. Obesity, and that is really a big problem. So people are around thinking through. It is not just only a product point of view. There are a lot of services around, and how we can able to create a lot of awareness. I think that's really growing. And so seniors, obesity, and wellness, and chronic, and cancer is another big the problem which is prevailing in India. One, we have to work on prevention as well as how we are going to really work on the category towards on the wellness on the cancer. I think especially coming on the non-pharma side of it, the baby, for example, there are conditions I'm talking about. I know the skin. Earlier we used to just have only one regimen. Today the skin has become at least 8 to 9 regimens. They have a lot of conditions that are coming into the skin. Maybe I have a pigmentation issue. I have the psoriasis. I have something else. I think each and every the categories becoming a subcategories we need to focus. I think that's what is really happening in the market today.
So one of the things that's going around in circulation is the Bloom Ventures report on how much does India have to spend, right? And Gopal, while speaking to you earlier, I think you mentioned how some of the premium categories, premium price points, and how you are seeing 2 lakh rupee sarees actually selling online, right? As you think about building a premium business in India and a large scale premium business in India, retail business that you are building, how do you believe that the codes of success there are different? What needs to be thought about differently for somebody who's trying to build a premium retail business?
Yeah. So I guess one of the most important thing is, at least what I have learned is, you have to adapt, okay, what customer wants, right? So imagine that you are going to a physical store of Katya and you want to buy a watch worth 10 lakh rupees, right? So when you enter the store of Katya, okay, you have people who are greeting you, okay, they will take you to the counter, right? And maybe there will be a sofa for you to sit. They will offer you coffee or soft drinks or snacks or whatever it is. There's, there's a lot of white glove service which is given to you, right? Now, we sell a lot of Katyas on Tata Click Luxury for 10 lakh rupees online to the customers who has never seen the product before. Right? I'm just taking one example. Now, how does this happen? Okay, what we have to do is that we have to translate that exact journey of customer into a physical store to an online store. For any brand, when you enter into a retail store, right? I've been there. You go left, you go right. Rajneesh knows it better, right? How do you make? You want the customer to move left, you will make the customer move left. That's how you design your aisle, okay, in a mall or in a store. And that's how in online we do this navigation. I want to take my customer to the premium side in Tata Click Luxury. I will take the customer over there. The only thing what I cannot do is I cannot hold the customer from her neck and say that you buy from me and you buy this premium product. So I create all the white glove services which I need, okay, to sell a 50 lakh rupee watch, or let me keep it at 50 lakh rupees or 30 lakh rupees watch. How do we do? Sometimes we fly a person at a manager level to the customer's house, right? It's not a courier which is going. We call the customer, we take appointment, okay, and 3 people go with white gloves into the customer's house with an appointment, and we ask the customer, sir, do you want a video to be made, okay, of the, packaging unfolding? Sometimes the brand person will also come with us. So when you want to sell a 25 lakh rupee product online in a place like Nagpur or Etawah or Jhansi or Hoshangabad, I want to tell you that more than 50% of the business that we do at Tata Click Luxury does not come from metro cities. And statistically, 57% of the Indian wealth is not available in the top metro cities. So when we go there, these people are so overwhelmed because for some of them, to buy a Cartier means to travel 400 kilometers or 500 kilometers before they find a showroom. So for any premium brand, okay, if they want to be there online, they have to duplicate that kind of experience which a person will get into an offline store. So whether, we have an assisted sales service. That means if you do not understand about the product, you call, you press a button on the app, and the person will call you, will take. Sometimes our sale takes 8 weeks. The customer will call today, and she will close the call on buying a Mangal Sutra worth 10 lakh rupees after 8 weeks. Because unless she understands every attribute of that particular product, she will not buy. So in a nutshell, you have to create that experience of offline into online, and content, which is the heart. You tell everything about the product, okay? And then about your navigation, your proper services, your checkouts, your address page, and then your customer service, right? That how the customer is not liking the product. No questions asked, 25 lakh rupee product, please send it back. We go and collect the product from the customer's house. Customer doesn't have to do anything. So you have to go to that level because that's what happens in physical. So just duplicate, okay? That's what it is. The ways and means are different.
No, quite interesting. And I am being told the time's up. So I'm going to try and summarize, and I think quite interesting, insightful points. I think for me, some of the takeaways here was, I think Mr. Radhakrishnan, what you mentioned. I mean, access being, an aspiration, being some of the key drivers of why retail is growing, and how, retailers need to innovate, right? To think about what are the new models, and which, Gopal, you connected, right? It is not about thinking a one-size-fits-all model, but really thinking about, for this category, for this price point, what do I need to do to convert the consumer? For me, that's a very clear, interesting takeaway. Mr. Kumar, what you mentioned, right, on thinking about a category such as healthcare, how do you think about both the emerging opportunities around elderly and how you're tapping it, and also thinking about both, the challenges that you mentioned around how do you take this business beyond discount into something which is solving, maybe latent customer needs, maybe solving access and aspirational problems. For me, it's very interesting to see how you have actually said how you stumbled upon offline and how, it is important to be experimentative, seeing what works for your category, your proposition, and then trying out things. What Rajneesh mentioned, how stores are actually evolving and really the role of store itself is changing in terms of how they're doing, but something different than online, something it gives beyond online to actually for you to go there, right? And what you mentioned, how you're actually taking culture, not just to different parts of the country to create access, but also globally, and making this category actually more successful and something to pride in and something to really make it more contemporarized and take it forward. And what the role of personalization and loyalty and how that creates a more, how somebody can use that and how somebody can use that in a business friendly way. For me, just it energizes me on what the opportunity exists. And it just tells me that we have to do a lot more as the overall retail group. You're saying.
No, I just wanted to make one point, Bharat. There's so many things that people want. We're selling so many things. But on your topic about India being so diverse and bringing people together, I think if there's something that everybody in this room and everybody in this country will need is really good health. And medicine is not good health. I think we have to work towards it. Just one piece of statistics I want to leave with you. We did a survey around 500 people in Bombay, 50% men and 50% women. We found 30 people run marathons, very serious. Another 100 people actually walk by their watch. Every day they time their walk. The rest of the people do nothing. And India has 30 for every lakh of people who are obese. And the Prime Minister has picked it up. I think we have to wait for the Prime Minister to go to the Red Fort, to ask us to wear a helmet, to drive properly, to have toilets, to also now tell us that we should not be obese. So if there's one theme that everybody has got to promote is, I think, good health. I don't mean the medicines.
No, I take that as a personal offense, but we'll work on it. No, very interesting, and it's been an honor hosting this panel, and I hope the audience also found it insightful. Really, really great pleasure, and thank you so much for this. Thank you, the audience, for being a great listener.